Hello, and welcome to my channel. I hope you like my new intro, and I hope you're super excited to talk about what we're talking about today, because welcome back to the Cool Down Lab. And today we're talking about the MILLROSE games. I'm recording this just about an hour after the games finished, and they were so fun. They always bring the star power, they always bring the flair, and they always bring the fun. So let's talk about it, because there were so many upsets and so many surprises this year. First off, we start off with the women's 60-meter hurdles. Danielle Williams, an awesome win for her over Devin Charlton and Christina Clemens in a 7:90. That was a pretty good race. Both of the hurdles races were really like races for the latecomers, with the winner coming late to overtake someone else, in this case Williams overtaking Charlton. And then the men's, it was kind of Tinch overtaking the college field a little bit to take the title in 7:52. And it was really good to see his return to form, because he did look a little bit concerning maybe last week in Boston. But then we heard his post-race interview where he said he had only started going over hurdles about a week prior to being in Boston, and this was his really main meet and also his final meet of his indoor season. So that makes it a little less concerning what we saw from him. But I know a lot of people were wondering if maybe there was something going on. So it was great to see him back in his form in this race. As far as it went over the flats, Dina Asher-Smith, does this woman age? I don't think so. Because 7:10, I feel like every year we're predicting that she is going to kind of fall out of it. And nope, she's coming in and winning big races once again this year. And can we even be surprised at this point? It's Dina Asher-Smith. The career this woman has carved out for herself is absolutely insane. She took the win here over Jacius Spheres and Mariah Maxwell, who I believe was the high schooler in the field, coming through for an awesome third. I love how the MILLROSE has their little qualification system that allows the high schoolers to really get involved, so you can see all the way through kind of the top tier ranks, all the way from college to professional. I think that's a really cool aspect of the games and something that makes it just so much more fun and interesting. So love to see it. And then on the men's side, we had Akeem Blake, another latecomer, 6:55, just beating out a couple of college guys, actually. There were a lot of college guys in this race, kind of. Actually, there weren't that many, but there were a few. There were a few I recognized from college, whether they're still in college or not. But Akeem Blake still looking in absolutely tip-top form. Yeah, and we also saw Brian Lavelle in this race. He ran 5th place in a 6:66. Who knows at this point, especially with the sprinters this early in the season, too soon to tell. But then we got into the distance events with the women's 3,000. And this was kind of billed as Doris Lemangole versus Jane Hendegren. That was what this was billed as, and I do think that it lived up to that, especially with Lemangole. She kind of went up, went out, and honestly, I also think this race was it was very interesting to watch unfold, because we had Hendegren in there all the time, Lemangole in there all the time, Tanaka in there all the time. There was a lot of kind of mobility at the top, and then we also had Hannah Nuttall coming through. But it would be Doris Lemangole who would take it in 8:31.39. Hannah Nuttall closed insanely fast to be right behind, and then Jane Hendegren ended up being back in third, 8:34.98 for her. This was a really good field, to be honest with you. I really liked this field, and I always like to see this was a pretty international field, which I always like to see. And I also just like to see when it does get taken out, because this race did definitely get taken out at a decent pace, which was so nice and refreshing to see. It is a little bit, I feel like, more common to see that in indoor compared to outdoor, but still, I'm always grateful. I love to see a sprint finish, but I also like to see a full-on 3,000 meter race. I'm not going to talk about the field events here. Sorry, I literally thought someone was breaking into my house, but it's just my cats fighting with each other. It sounds the same. Anyways, like I was saying, I'm not going to cover the field events. There honestly weren't that many big names in the field events. I feel like MILLROSE there usually aren't. And honestly, in the indoor season as a whole, there usually aren't. There's a couple big names in the field events that compete indoor, but there really aren't too many. So I understand that it can be hard. I know that has been a criticism of MILLROSE in the past, where people are like, they don't have like the star power in the field events, they have in the track events. Which, yes, but A, MILLROSE is known for their track events specifically, and B, I feel like it is genuinely difficult to find people who are actually going to run or jump or throw indoors just because of the way the season is set up. I feel like they're a lot less likely to compete inside. But in the women's 600 meters, Rosen Willis, this girl, first year pro, by the way, 1:24.87 for the 600 meter win, proving once again, if we needed more proof, that we need to watch her because she could be a problem. Honestly, they were saying about seeing the birth of stars, and like that's what I was thinking when I was watching this, because she also just looks so effortless. I hate to make comparisons to Sydney McLaughlin because it's hard to say anyone can compare to Sydney McLaughlin, but her stride and the way she can make fast paces look effortless, I know it is a little bit of a longer distance, so it's a little bit different, reminds me of Sydney McLaughlin. Like the way that she runs, honestly, like her like running form and style reminds me a lot of Sydney McLaughlin in the way that she strides out and extends her strides to make it look so effortless, where it doesn't even look like they're running that fast, but they are. That's what it really reminds me of, and it's just something that's magical to watch, honestly. Especially in these longer races where you're not necessarily in lanes, it is really awesome to watch. So that was interesting. She took the win over Juliette Whitaker and Olivia Baker, and also national record in the 600 for Anis Bourgoin for France in fourth, 1:26.17. Moving on to the men's 2 mile, a race that was heralded as having just as much star power as an Olympic final. And I kind of think that's true. I don't think they were lying when they said that. I was really sad to see that Grant Fisher wasn't running. There were quite a few scratches. Grant Fisher didn't run the 2 mile. Ellie St. Pierre didn't run the Wanamaker mile. And I think Josh Hoey was supposed to be in, I think he announced he wasn't running a little while ago, but he scratched out of the Wanamaker mile as well. There is like illnesses going around. A lot of them said that they were ill or they were not feeling well. There have been illnesses going around. Everyone has been sick, so like it makes sense, but it was unfortunate. And honestly, I kind of figured as soon as we saw that we weren't going to see a world record in this race, because it would have taken Grant Fisher pushing it from the gun to be able to see that. It was a quick race. The winning time was 8:07.31, which is not slow. It's not pedestrian by any means. It's about 8 seconds off the world record. But I kind of figured that it really wasn't going to be happening without Grant Fisher. But it was Cole Hawker, as I suspected. I said I didn't want to make predictions, but if I did, I would choose Cole Hawker. And yeah, it was Cole Hawker. And like, there's not much to say except he went when he always does. He looked as good as he always does. He closed the way he always does. And he had his nice little celebration there as well. Josh Kerr followed him home, followed by Parker Wolf, who really made a run for it with 300 meters to go, but I think ultimately just went a little too early and got swallowed up by Cole Hawker and Josh Kerr. And then there were a couple of Australians in fourth and fifth. Kai Robinson ended up getting the national record for Australia, followed right closely by Jordy Beamish. And then we had Graham Blanks, Cooper Tier, Drew Hunter, Havidan Samuel from New Mexico ended up getting the college record in this race, which had stood for 48 years. So that's really impressive. 8:11:47 he ran to break that record. I think the record was like 8:26. Like, he broke it by a lot. Crazy. So yeah, I would say it's hard to say it lived up to expectations because a lot of people were expecting the world record, but in a non-Grant Fisher race, I would say it lived up to expectations in the way that we kind of knew it was not going to be a world record. Like, as soon as we saw the lack of the lack of Grant Fisher in this race. And next we had, I don't actually know, I'm going through the results list because I want the exact times and I'm not a crazy person who can just memorize those. I don't know if this is in perfect order, but I think it is, because next is the men's 600 meter. Guys, we were talking about Rosen Willis, and watching stars be born. She's first year pro. Here's another first year pro, except he's a junior in high school. Guys, I need to level up my game. Because he's a junior in high school and he just ran 114.15 for a 600. For a 600. What? In what world? And of course he took the win over McIver Jewett. This field was decent, but it was Cooper Lukenhouse's race to lose this race, to be honest with you. But talk about watching the birth of what could be an amazing career. Like, the potential is off the freaking charts. It's insane. And then the women's 1,000. I was wrong about this race. I was thinking maybe Sage Hurtaklecker had a shot. Maybe Addie Wiley had a shot. Of course, like I said, I'm always partial. Addie Wiley was in second, but no one was catching Daguma. 2:35.5 on the dot for a 1,000. It was hard to predict just because she was one of the women who didn't have a 1,000-meter PR, and a lot of their 1,000-meter PRs are old or just weird because it's not a very commonly raced event. But this was a good race, and considering that it went out fast but not insanely fast, they got pretty close to like the world record, which I believe is in the high 220s, low 230s. Like I said, 2:35 for the win here. So it was a good race. Wiley and Cogden just followed Daguma home. Yeah, it was. I'm struggling for things to say. Wiley led basically the entire race, and Daguma just tracked her and then caught her at the end of the race. But yeah, it was good. I don't have much to say there. The men's 800, I have a lot to say, because look, for a second, I thought I was gonna be right. I thought my crazy prediction was gonna pan out, and y'all were gonna have to be like, "Oh my God, she's a genius," because I thought Mohamed Atoui had this race in his pocket. Because once he passed Donovan Brazier kind of fell apart, and I thought, he has this. There's no way he doesn't have this, because his speed is insane. His finishing speed is insane. His turnover rate is insane, especially on the indoor circuit. I could not have expected what happened next. When he hit the front, he hit the outside and was on the front. I was like, guys, I'm gonna get proof of my. But no, Colin Solomon. I don't know if you remember my warm-up lap video when I said they all have PRs in the 132s except for this guy. Yeah, so when I said that, I wasn't actually expecting this guy to take it in a 3-second indoor personal best. That's a lot of seconds. What? Like, this race truly insane. Insane. Absolutely crazy. Just like, he's a senior at Northern Arizona, which, Northern Arizona, by the way, there's a tangent. Beautiful freaking college. It's so pretty. I was there a couple years ago. It's beautiful. It's so freaking cool. Anyways, it was an insane race, and it was with the kick too. And I was like, God damn, he outkicked like the kickers. Like, how did he do that? There are no words. Obviously, national personal best and indoor personal best for Tui in second, and Patterson from Great Britain in third, followed by Brazier, Hoppel, and Cohn, the Americans. Well, except for the college kid who beat everyone. What? It's absolutely insane. This is what I love about their whole system that they have, where they'll just throw a college kid in the race. Only college kid in the race. Everyone else was pro, won the whole thing. This is why we love it. So freaking wow. 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 And then we had the Wanamaker Miles. The women's first. And obviously, because Elle St. Pierre pulled out, we were guaranteed a new champion. We were guaranteed to see someone else hold what my family calls the Stanley Cup, the Wanamaker Trophy. Sorry, we're hockey fans and we can't resist. Speaking of hockey, I actually need to wrap this video up on the quicker side because Stadium Series is tonight and the Bruins are playing and I need to lock in. Anyways, let's talk about this because, oh my god, the fireworks. And I also have an unpopular opinion that I will share in a second. We're getting there. Nikki Hiltz in this race. World lead, personal best. They ran 4:19.64 to take the win over Jess Hall. Jess Hall confuses me sometimes because she can compete with the likes of Faith Kipyegon outdoors. But indoors, I feel like a lot of the time we will see her get beat by Ellie St. Pierre for a whole bunch of years. Nikki Hiltz in this race. Other people that I can't put my finger on. Those were the two that I was mainly thinking of. My point was, I don't know. See, it's hard because obviously indoor is a gear up, and some people use it more as a gear up, and some people use it more as a actual season. I just think it's interesting because there are very few athletes that I notice that swing with more than Jessica Hall. But it's working because she puts out amazing numbers outdoors. Like I said, she can get on terms in a good race of hers or be close to being on terms with the likes of Faith Kipyegon sometimes. Like, that's insane. So I am just proposing that maybe the bigger swing works better, I guess. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but I feel like there's something about that kind of swing, from that bigger swing from indoor to outdoor, that works really well for Jessica Hall. And I don't see a lot of other people employ it. But anyways, Nikki Hiltz in this race, they were absolutely incredible, stunning, spectacular. The finish, I was actually running on the treadmill when I was watching these. I was screaming. I was so excited because that last 300 meters was so good. It was neck and neck for a while. It was on the line for a while. And then Claudia Kaczmarska came through for third in national record, 3:21.36, followed by Lyndon Hell and Susan Ajori. I'm pretty sure I predicted Dorcas Ewa in this field, and she didn't run. I didn't see a thing that she scratched. I'm starting to think maybe my sources were just a little off. I don't know. I feel like this happens all the time. I don't know why the sites that I look at can never get the registrations right, or I don't know if maybe they just genuinely do switch that fast. I don't know. I don't know. But that race, that was amazing. And we finished it off with the men's Wanamaker Mile. And the big story here was, will Yard Nuguse defend his title? And the answer was no. He finished in second place. Now, I'm going to read you some names. All right? Hobbs Kessler, Andrew Koskinen, Festus Legat, Nico Young, Cam Myers, Gary Martin, Ollie Hoare. There are a couple more. Those are like the big names in the field, or some of them. Who do you think could have gotten in front of Yard Nuguse? Maybe it's Hobbs Kessler. He's super hot. He just set a 2K world record. No, it's not Hobbs Kessler. Maybe Nico Young. He shows a lot of preference. No, it's not Nico Young. Maybe it's Gary Martin. Maybe he had a really good race. Maybe it's Ollie Hoare. You know, we said Ollie Hoare could get in the mix. No. It wasn't Australian, though. It was Cam Myers. 19, by the way. World leading 347.57. Okay, I don't know what they're feeding these kids down under. Do you feed your kids like kangaroo meat or like Wheaties with like, I don't even know what, like Wheaties just like infused with protein powder? I don't know. I don't know what it is about these Australians that they have been raising recently, but they're insane and I'm afraid of them. Because what do you mean? Out of nowhere. Insane. I mean, and this race too was really good because we saw Kessler try to take it, we saw Nuguse try to take it, then we saw Nuguse fall back, we saw Nico Young slingshot all the way up to fourth, and then we saw Myers just kind of hanging out. And he was in the front, but he was just kind of hanging out. And then he was just not leaving. That was the wild part. He didn't leave. Because it's very 19-year-old running with more experienced runners to take things out and being in front. That's very common. What's not common is to see them stick with it, win the race, and run a world leading time. That's not common. And that's what happened in this race. Honestly, I can just tell you, go watch it if you haven't already, because it was insane. But that was a really fun race to watch. I am going to tell you my favorite men's race and my favorite women's race of the day. I think Wanamaker Mile was my favorite on the women's side, but this is going to be unpopular. I actually think the men's 800 was the most fun to watch. Maybe I just love an upset, but it's very close between the men's 3 mile and the men's 800 for me, for best race of the night on the men's side. Overall thoughts for Millrose this year. I think last year Millrose was the fight of the guys at the top. It was how fast can we go and how fast can the guys at the top get there. It's big names versus big names, and all the big names showed up, delivered, and showed why they were the big names. I think this year Millrose was a little bit more story of the underdog. It was these college, these high school, these young professionals. Can they show up? And show up they did. So let me know down below what your thoughts were on the Millrose Games this year, and I look forward to seeing y'all again soon. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Bye!